take us through the news that we were all pleased to hear that Consortium's takeover of 7-time Challenge Cup winners Widnes has been approved by the RFL last Friday. However, the Championship side will still receive a 12-point penalty for going into administration. They were placed in that administration last week, in fact the week before last, which we spoke about with Paul O'Brien, and that prompted the postponement of last weekend's game against Sheffield for insurance reasons. Fans began a fundraising campaign which raised more than £100,000 in support of the club, and a 7-strong consortium of Chris Price, Jason Shaw, Roger Harrison, Stuart Murphy, David Dean, Tracy Glendinning and Rod Steele is now in place. The new private limited company Widnes Rugby League Club Limited, has already been registered with Companies House. Shaw's presence on the board means that Widnes supporters group Vikings Quids In, who've been the main drive behind that fundraising effort, really, they're represented on the board too, so there's fan representation on the board. Shall we run through a few fan views? Well, I suppose you can cover these.
Yep, starting off with Mark Butler, who said that this week's 4020 podcast, don't worry, I always listen to SLP first. Well done, Mark. Repeatedly stated that it would be a folly to throw money at saving the club and a debt-free restart at the bottom was the only option. I can't help but think that would be an easy surrender, weaseling out of monies owed and therefore undesirable. Time will tell, of course. You'd expect some cost-cutting to come, but feel this is a result.
Tom Andrews says, great news all round with minimal casualties. Hopefully they can kick on and avoid the drop. Should be a great atmosphere on Sunday. If Fev haven't died of impatience, that is, in brackets, worse things could happen.
Yeah,
they were
let's touch on that tweet for that. Why? Who thought that was a good idea? Who thought that wasn't just going to piss everybody off?
Like, there'll be some of their own fan base who'll have been thinking, oh, they get it. They understand how annoyed we are that we bought our tickets already and we don't know if there's going to be a game, or we want to go and watch our club and we don't know if there's going to be a game. But show a little shred of compassion for someone who's in a far worse position than you are as a fan base, and probably a bigger fan base as well.
If Widnes hosted every Challenge Cup game for 3 years, they probably wouldn't be in this problem. But
well, they wouldn't make any money off it because they own the ground. But yeah, it was totally. The tone was,
and for it to come from the official club account as well was just a bit like, you don't need to do that. The only possible scenario would be if someone from Widnes had got on the phone, and we'll never know this, and this is highly conspiracy nonsense. But if someone Widnes had got on the phone and said, we need to put some pressure on the people in the boardroom to actually get this over the line, could you agitate a bit? But realistically, that's not going to happen.
It did. It just stunk of not judging the tone of rugby league, you know. But anyway, there you go. Paul O'Brien, what did he have to say after this great news?
Yeah, he said, what a week. Great that we've been taken over, but feel for the players and staff who've lost their jobs. This is where the hard work starts. We need to continue the momentum that's built up this week, back the team and get bums on seats and push the club forward. Also, a massive thank you to every single person who has donated. #RL family, #WTID, #Rise Again, #We saved our club.
Just so people know, on the Google form, hashtags don't really mean anything, but thanks for putting your view in. I'll run through the other Widnes related stories then whilst we're sort of talking about this, then we can give our thoughts, Tim. So Leeds have agreed to a deal to sign Widnes' academy players Sam Walters and Jared O'Connor for an undisclosed fee. Walters, who's 18, is an England academy international who was part of the side which won in the series last year against the touring Australian schoolboys, and O'Connor, who's 17, is is son of the former GB forward Terry O'Connor, and he was part of Widnes' under-19 squad. Meanwhile, 3 senior players, Kristen Inu, Adam Tangata and Wellington Albert, were effectively made redundant, being released by Widnes. Neither Inu or Albert had played this season, while Tangata is set for a spell on the sidelines, having been injured in the Vikings game against Toronto. It looks like Tangata is going to get some support with his rehab from his former club Halifax. Albert's been quite strongly linked with the Leeds Rhinos, and it's understood that all 3 of the players will be exempt from quota and be classed as Federation trained players for the duration of the next contract that they sign. Meanwhile, it is important to note as well, it wasn't just the playing staff that was hurt here. 4 of the club's backroom staff were made redundant too, so it's really sad that some people have lost their jobs. Another line in that came in today, Liam Hood's left the club.
I was going to say,
expected to re-sign for Lee, but on a part-time basis. So that kind of wraps all of that
and there
up.
could well be more to come as well. In that regard, I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of players moving on as well in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on as well, like what sort of deals can be done with some of the Super League clubs that definitely are spending way below the cap, that don't have huge squads. I'm thinking of Salford, I'm thinking of London, and maybe Huddersfield might need to think about a refresh whether Widnes' squad is the right way to do that.
KR could do with someone that defends, but is Widnes the right place to pick someone
well from? Yeah, they stayed up last year with a side that was relegated the year before they're promoted, but I think yeah, some other players maybe will go, but it'll be on Widnes' terms, I guess, a little bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. They have got some young assets there. They need to keep enough of a team around though to overcome that, what is now a 6-point deficit at the bottom of the table. But you think another 5 or 6 wins for them, and the way Swinton, Rochdale, Batley and Barrow are kind of looking, they might have a shot at finishing mid-table still. So if they get another 5 or 6 wins, so yeah, I think there's definite hope to stay in the Championship for Widnes if they keep most of that team around. I also am pleased that they went through administration and came out of administration rather than getting liquidated and all these debts being completely, gone.
Yeah,
it's quite nice to see that there'll be some sort of repayment for some of
especially when the biggest creditor is the local council.
Exactly.
Who, let's be honest, aren't going to exactly be awash with cash anyway.
No, exactly. So that's I think of that as a positive. Now, one thing's for sure, this group who've come in aren't loaded. They're not super wealthy. They're not going to be able to run the club out of their own pocket on a budget.
But what we hope they will be able to do is run it smartly, because they won't be spending money they haven't got.
Yes, they'll run it smartly, and they'll run it more with the community, with the fans. Having a member of the a fan fundraising group on the board is fantastic. It's not like a flash in the pan fan fundraising thing either. They've been around for 20 odd years, so there's lots of good stuff there. And I do worry. Do you worry that we're going to go through this again in a year's time with Widnes, because these guys aren't, this group of people aren't super wealthy? There is a worry of that in the back of my mind, but
Yeah, I think if they stay up, then, which, like you said, there's enough mediocrity at the bottom of the Championship that it's very possible that almost that could be a curse in some respects, because of the overheads they'll have trying to stay in the Championship for another year. They'd almost be better taking that relegation and rebuilding from League One up in some respects.
Yeah, but I think if they can keep fans over the, if they keep the crowds over the 4,500-5,000 level, then I really think there's enough in that to make them a sustainable Championship club for a solid long run period, and then maybe someone who loves the club, who doesn't love his money more than he loves the club, might come along and or her money, or or their money, or however it might form out, will come along and put the money into the club and give them a tilt at Super League. But I kind of see a sugar daddy, sugar mummy kind of situation. It's the only way they're gonna actually probably be a force in Super League at that top table again, but I think they could become a solid Championship club on crowds of 4,500, 5,000. So there is a sustainability there then at that level, once they've shunted around and become maybe a part-time side that's got a great focus on youth and bringing people through and shipping the odd one on. And maybe the fans need to be a little bit more respectful of the players who leave then, because they're going to be leaving for good reason. There's no money to pay them. But I'm really pleased about the way it seems to have been gone about, and the work that the fans have done.
Yeah, I think the way they've rallied round has been brilliant. I always feel a bit bad every time that this has to happen, though, and the fact that we're having to see this more regularly, and it's almost becoming. It wouldn't almost surprise me if some club had put that in their risk model as, it's okay if we go into administration because we know we can trot out the GoFundMe page and we'll get 60 grand minimum off the back of that. And it sort of worries me long term that we're having to do this not even every year now. It's now every 6 months.
Well, I think the long term situation is going to be that these clubs have to accept a part-time existence without that, major investor, that major super rich investor. That's just a reality, I think, that we have to address. Either that, or every single person in each of our club's catchment areas turns up to watch every single game and pays to do so. They're the two extremes we're in. So people throw their emotion into it, don't they? That's why these GoFundMe kind of situations are successful.
Yeah.
So I get that, but I don't think that Widnes's new board are going to look at that as the model, if you know what I mean. They're not going to look.
No, I'm not saying Widnes necessarily, but I could see other clubs that perhaps are treading a financial tightrope. They're almost inclined to casino it because they think, okay, we'll risk getting up this season, and if we do go bust, it's okay because we've got the backup of the slush fund effectively that will be out there.
Yeah, I think there might be a change in strategy when we understand what the new TV deal might be, what the new financial distributions might be, because if you're pumping in a bit of your own money to get yourself over the line of from the Championship into the Super League, that's one thing. But if the Championship funding's dramatically reduced, which kind of most people expect it's going to have to be, then you're going to have to pump in a lot of your own money to do that, and all of a sudden it's a very different strategy. The risk becomes greater than the potential reward. So because you're putting in a bigger amount. So yeah, I don't. And I know what you're suggesting. I think maybe for the next year or two we might see problematic situations develop at some of the clubs, but I don't think that's going to be a thing clubs look for down the line. I think it's more going to come out of necessity because there just isn't the money in the game, and sadly it seems the interest isn't necessarily there too. Because you look around, was there any four-figure crowds in League One this weekend? I think the best crowd in League One this weekend was at Keighley, who were like 10 points adrift at the bottom of the table because of financial troubles. So when you go below that level, and then even in the Championship, there's a handful of games that were below 1,000 people there, and there was only a small number of games that were above 2,000 people there. So I think there was more below 1,000 than were above 2,000. So it's just the reality of the situation, and unless we can find a way to bring in people who have got the ability to spend money on going to games and who choose to do that over other stuff, I don't see how we avoid the real core loyal fans having to hand out more of their money to make their clubs continue to exist at a semi-professional level, or just accept the reality that let the top table break away a bit more, because that's the only place there's any money, if at all.
Yeah.
Scary.
And the other thing is that then I've completely forgot my train of thought there. It's just completely left me. Just as a contrast, so this weekend in the sixth tier of soccer, we got a crowd of over 6,000 at Stockport, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Wow.
So it just shows that there are crowds out there at the right price for the right. If you get the product right and you get the marketing right and you get people,
Stockport has that many more people wanting to go to who are part of their fan base compared to areas like Widnes. So yeah, we shall see. Okay. Interesting. Bloody football. Why does everyone go and watch it? It's not as fun. Do you want to take us through? Let's rattle through some other news stories, starting with some injury news out of the south of France.
Yep, Catalan Dragon could be without